We should be live now.
Yeah, that's for them. Hello, everybody. All right, so there we go. Well, welcome to the Mikestand Weekend Edition, everybody. Hope everybody has had a good weekend, good relaxing weekend. Of course, Rick Piper's joining me. Hopefully, we'll have more panelists show up, but you never know. Um, so Rick, how'd your weekend go?
It's going good. Took a walk yesterday. I went to a place called Cultus Lake. It's about an hour's walk away from me, so I walked there. I was in the area for about an hour and then walked home.
You
So,
actually walked an hour.
well, technically, I walked almost probably 2.5, 3 hours. If I stopped for a little bit here and there and rested, but you know,
I
because
get it. It
I
just
walked.
aside from myself, I don't know too many people who would like have those long walks like that. But then again, my guess is you probably you don't drive, do you? You don't have a driver's license or anything like that, right?
No, no. And I
So
wanted to go check the place out, so they actually have although it's not open right now, it gets started open next weekend, but they have like a small amusement park there. So I wanted to, check it out before the amusement park open and, figured I'd take the walk. It's like apparently it's supposed to be a 7-minute drive. So when I go to I'm not sure whether yet when I go to the amusement park whether I'll just grab a cab or whether I will walk the hour to get there and then spend the day somewhat of the day at the amusement park and then either cab it home or take walk home.
yeah, that yeah, I mean that sounds pretty cool. I mean, you don't hear hear people walking that much, because everybody's got so used to just using their cars to get themselves around. So
Yeah, well, I've always most of my life I haven't had a vehicle or whatever to be able to use or
oh,
my
so you're
mom.
kind of like me then. I've basically been kind of the same way. I walk everywhere, kind of
uh,
known
I either
known as the
walk or
local
take the
walking.
bus. Either walk or take the bus. Like my mom had a car for a few years, so most places got driven at that point when we had the money. And I had my license for a few years, or sort of my license. I was on the graduated licensing thing. I'm not sure whether you know what that is, but stages to getting your full license, and I never got to the part where the full license because
Basic.
when it,
Well, okay. So you guys call your versions graduated license. I guess we would call them um, driver's permit. I guess or something to that effect.
we have the first one is the 365, which is basic or beginners. You get it, you go take the test, you have it. Well, this is what it is now. You take the test, then you've got like a year to do driving school or whatever, and then you take one test, which will give you some privileges and allow you to drive alone, as you know, with the 360. Well, you may not know with 365, the learner's permit, whatever you want to call it.
Learner's permit. That's what
You,
I was meaning. Yeah.
yeah, you can't drive alone, but once you pass the test, the first test, you can drive alone, but you can't drive at night. Number of people, no seatbelts, zero alcohol in your blood, all these types of things,
Mhm.
restrictions. Not a lot of restrictions, but then you have like another year to 5 years, and you take another test to get all your privileges for driving. That's 3 stages instead of two or one. I'm not sure how you would have put it when it was just you get your learner's permit and then
Yeah.
you go right to your license.
Right. All right. Well, we're coming up. We're just past the 5 minute mark. So why don't we do this? First off, I know, Well, first off, let me just remind everybody, if you haven't already, of course, you guys can like and share the stream. In fact, I even forgot to do something before I. uh, Let me just do these real quick. But for those of you, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here that we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. With that, Rick, you wanna do an intro? Maybe share any links. You know the story, right?
Yeah, well, as most people know, as my name says, right there, I am Rick Piper of Cross Comics. What's Cross Comics? Well, Cross Comics is a comic company I've created to do comic books or have comic books made under the publishing name of Cross Comics. And that is Canadian Christian superhero comics, although I'll probably do some other characters from other places in the world too eventually.
Hmm. All right. So,
And
anything more you want to say, or
no, and it's too hard to get out of the link right now, so
all right. So, anyways, yeah. So, let's see.
how's your week
Anything,
going?
anything going on with you, Rick? Right now, any job prospects or anything like that?
Nothing super spectacular at the moment. I've of course put out a few dozen resumes or over 100 resumes, and just waiting to hear back. And of course always putting out more. Somebody at church gave me a line on a place that maybe might be hiring.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, it's the people that do the custodial work for the church. So uh, in the next couple of days, I'm going to get down to where they are to put in a resume,
Hmm.
hopefully. And tomorrow, I'm going to meet up with somebody at uh, a place that's supposed to help you out for doing resumes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So
All
I'm
right.
not sure what's going to come back tomorrow.
All right. So with that, I think what we'll do now then, since it seems like we're running kind of out of stuff to talk about, why don't we go ahead and
Well,
go
well,
ahead?
before we read an article, how about you comment on how things went on Friday night for
Okay.
the comic book reading? I
Yeah.
wasn't there for reading.
Basically, this past Friday we started our February of 1940 coverage. RJ joined me for that. Um, we went over, of course, we went over comics that went on sale in February 1941 DC Comics. Most notably, we covered the first appearances of Lex Luthor and Our Man. So we read,
Superman and Our
yeah,
Man.
we read Action Comics Volume One, Number 23, which introduced us to Lex Luthor, and we of course we looked over his information. We basically did the second half of the Spectre's origin story from More Fun Comic number 52 and 53. Of course, reading number 53, we of course read the first appearance of Our Man, Rick's
Yeah,
TikTok Tyler. We also saw the return to the pages of Detective Comics um, of Crimson Avenger, who of course RJ had commented on, was very similar to Green Hornet, of course, including the kind of Asian valet chauffeur, all that. Detective Comics 37 marked the return of Crimson after like an 8 issue hiatus where he initially made his debut in Detective Comics number 20, went all the way up through 29. and I was thinking about trying to do a couple more stories, but we got up to just shy of the 2 hour mark. But we were like about hour 45 when we got through the first four stories we went through. So we just
Okay.
figured we'd wrap up. So and we ended up just getting right just slightly over 2 hours for the show that night.
Oh,
So it's some interesting stuff. It's like you saw in the you know they were talking about how this Luthor, and he was Alexei Luthor, so Eastern European individual in this case. Um, you
yeah.
know, um,
Was he even named in this? Because I thought the first appearance of Lex Luthor, he wasn't really named.
well,
Is
they
the
only called at that point. They only called him Luthor. He didn't have
okay?
a first name. He just had a last name. He was just simply
Okay.
known as Luthor. So
Okay. I was even thinking that they might have showed him before and didn't even give him a name. He was just like a mad scientist or whatever. But
well, yeah, I mean that's kind of how he was depicted as more or less a mad scientist, megalomaniacal scientist. But from what we read when we went over his bio a little bit, um, his he was considered among the Luthors probably the most, let's say, sociopathic. You know, whereas the Alexander Luthor of Earth 2, just simply wanted to just humiliate Superman. But Alexei Luthor actually wanted to, he had no qualms about actually killing his not just his adversary, but other people too.
mm,
So,
yeah. And what is for the Spectre for the origin? Did they actually have? I know what he's supposed to be in more modern day comics. He's supposed to be um, the vengeance of God or something to that effect. Was it still that back then, or
yeah, it just wasn't really quite as pronounced, but more or less, for whatever reason, he was not allowed to go on to the afterlife, and he just maintained. Like one of the leaps in logic that even RJ pointed out was, even though he was more or less he was a specter, he was like kind of a ghost kind of thing, you know. But supposedly he still had to sew his own costume. He still had to actually make his own costume.
oh,
You know,
okay. So I think there's a bit of difference today. Yeah, the Spectre of today is supposed to be the wrath of God incarnating a person, if you will. Where so there's no
yeah.
suit to be shown, as far as I know.
Well, I mean, as a ghost, so as a quote unquote specter, he shouldn't have to. I think RJ's point was he shouldn't have had to actually sew a costume or anything like that.
Yeah,
He could just simply materialize it. You
yeah.
know, and he did it. He did have the ability, but for whatever reason, Bernard Bailey, who was the guy who wrote Spectre, you know, didn't think of that. He just kind of you know,
He's so used to that character, the heroes always having to create their own costume,
all right,
where
yeah, that's
this
pretty much,
one didn't really need to.
yeah. So basically, and well, I mean, there were a few things we talked about, like even RJ pointed out, like with Our Man, for example. Yeah, now I don't know if that was actually if he actually out and out announced it, but that's almost like telling criminals, yeah, I have my powers for an hour here. um, so yeah, just you know, um,
Yeah, that might not be a good idea to tell your adversary. Yeah, I have my powers for an hour. Well, when did you take that pill?
yeah. Well, yeah, and in this particular, but one of the other things that we kind of noted in that RJ noted on the show as well was that how it's a little bit more. It seems like he goes almost through a Jekyll and Hyde transformation, where just as his own persona, Rex TikTok Tyler, he's kind of mild and meek and all that, but then when he takes the miracle pill, he's like, it's like as Rex Tyler, he's Jekyll. As our man, he's Hyde.
Yeah,
Not
well,
not necessarily good and bad, but just more like he's meek in his civilian guys, and then he's like
yeah.
confident and strong in his.
Well, when I think you can't be hurt or whatever, I think that possibly leads to a little bit more self confidence or whatever, or might
Yeah, but I mean, he had a full on personality change. Is as
yeah,
far as
but I get that, but I'm just saying, if you think, like a punch is gonna break you, you're gonna be a little bit more timid and shy away from something like that. Where the other, if a punch isn't gonna hurt you, affect you in the least, you might be a little bit more confident or maybe even arrogant, for lack of a better word.
we have Duke Leto deities. I mean,
You just got
feel free to actually comment there,
Duke.
Duke Leto. Um,
Well, that is obviously word balloon from a comic. I'm not sure what it's he's supposed to be saying by saying a word balloon.
mhm. But welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy the show. We're just going over, just reviewing.
Oh, oh, it's Captain Infinity in my latest online incarnation. Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, there was a guy who used to be on here on regularly. One of my viewers, but he's been gone for a while. From what I understand, he's just been working. Well, also, he was, when I went to an hour earlier, he wasn't able to come on, as much. But um, his name, his name was Leto Enchanted, and he's got a gaming channel he usually does, but hasn't been on in a while. Hey, Captain Infinity, welcome to the show here. Of course, as always, if you haven't already, of course, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. Also, if as always, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, anyways, yeah, so it's some interesting stuff, and the funny thing is, at the beginning of the Spectre's origin story, he was
Yeah,
engaged to Clarice Winston, but after Jim Corrigan became a Spectre, he had to call it off because it's like the whole idea of basically a dead man having a wife, probably, you know, and
not
she couldn't
exactly.
understand, she couldn't understand why, he couldn't tell her, well, I'm actually dead.
Yeah, you don't really want to promote necrophilia. I think that's what it's called.
Necrophilia, that's right. The idea of, well, okay, necrophilia is basically the sexual attraction to a corpse.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was doing it with the corpse. Maybe it's just a.
Well, no, okay. So the word file or philia, mean more. Yes, okay. File would mean necrophile is somebody who is basically sexually attracted to a corpse.
I
Necrophilia is the act of having sex with a corpse. So, okay, so um, yeah, so that's basically the difference. So, anyways, yeah, so let's see, anything, yeah, we had a couple of kidnapping cases there. In the Superman story, it was, of course, Lex Luthor was kind of a. It's kind of funny because even though he doesn't make his first, Lexi Luthor doesn't make his actual first appearance until 23. Now, technically, Action Comics 23 is his first chronological appearance, but his first published appearances were in Superman 4, which were published sooner, published before Action Comics 23, but Action Comics 23 was his first chronological appearance. That's the way they explained it. So, anyways, I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment, Rick. So if you want to talk to everybody for a moment while I'm off camera here for a moment,
I'll talk to me, myself, and Duke. So, how are you today, Captain or Duke? Whatever you want to be called today. How is Monday? In New Zealand. He's cookie and I'm all about printing on demand research today. Okay. Cool.
Oh, so Captain Affinity's all the way over in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what, 19 hours away or something like that?
Something like that. It is
19 hours, yeah, it would be
definitely
19 hours for because you're on the west coast of Canada as well. So we're like
yeah.
5:30 here, so 12 and then 7. So it's probably around noontime there, I guess. If I had to take a wild
Well,
guess.
5 would be 12 hours. 5 in the morning, and definitely a few more hours beyond that.
Yeah. Well, it'd be 5 a.m.,
Yeah,
12 hours, and 7 hours after that would be 12 noon. So
or it could just be 12, 15 for sure. 15 for sure. Probably more like 17. Yeah, you're probably right.
well, because I know that from here on the West Coast all the way around to like Korea and Japan, it's I believe it's 16, 17 hours. So
Well, what time? Well, Captain, what time is it there for you if you want to say? But I do know it's a Monday morning there, or Monday sometime.
yeah, that much it's sure. Well, it's already Monday over in England too, because that I know is 8 hours from here to England, here to the
Yeah.
Kingdom. So.
Oh, right now, it is 1:23 in New Zealand, or part of it could be 2:08. It says here.
Well, apparently it's just gone 5:20 in the afternoon in Los Angeles. No, because I'm actually near Los Angeles. Actually, yeah, it would be 5:20 in Los Angeles now because I'm in Los
Yeah,
Angeles. It is 5:20,
it's 5:24.
5:24. So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, with all that, why don't we? I guess we just got done going over what we went over on the
Yeah, on Friday for the comic retrospect,
So why don't we go ahead and look at at least look
an
at
article or two.
an article, yeah. And one that's kind of mine because this is probably one of the bigger stories that's come out in the last few days here. This came out on Thursday. Was the passing of Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, I think I heard a little bit of something like that.
Well, yeah,
Although I
it
never really watched
happened.
it
There
much.
were a lot of people who were, like, of course, mourning his loss, and there, of course, as sometimes happens, coming out of the woodwork, you had some people, including some of the people from that Sweet Baby Inc. situation, coming out and just deciding to dump on him because that's just the kind of human beings they are, apparently. So,
Oh yeah, it's just like I saw a YouTube video on this. The actress of Wonder Woman, the recent actress of Wonder Woman, Gal,
Gal Gadot.
yeah, Gal Gadot. She just recently had a baby, and she posted a picture on Instagram, and yeah, is so celebrating it, and people come at her bashing her just because she's Israeli, bashing her about the whole Palestine and all that conflict going over there. It's like she has nothing to do with that. She's just celebrating the birth of her child, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Well, they want to go after, because basically it's like, mainstream Hollywood,
yeah,
again,
and just because she supports Israel,
basically
was
right
she's
now, the majority of mainstream Hollywood is anti-Judeo-Christian. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get that, but I'm not sure whether it's Hollywood. But no, it's just idiots. Well, I was gonna say like you or me, but nobody's will say or however you wanna, just describe us. Going after her. It's like she's Israeli. You're not gonna expect her to support Israel. Go
Mm-hmm.
figure.
Oh yeah. Well, as I understand it, Gal Gadot is Jewish, so
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
supporting
That's
her
my point.
people. I mean that, you know. But as we know, Rick, as we know Old Testament history, this goes all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into this article here.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama passes away at age 68 from reported acute subdural hematoma. Now, if I understand correctly, a subdural hematoma is basically it's a brain bleed, if I understand correctly. I think I guess a blood vessel must have popped in his head, and basically he just died from it. So, in a moment that truly no fan ever really fathomed would come, famed Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama has passed on to the other world.
Okay. I'm sorry. Some fans would have to know because death comes for us all.
Yeah. Well, nobody. Yeah, I'm sure people knew it
But maybe not so soon.
Well, basically, when and I've been watching the coverage on this. I know like Vera Dark, Yellow Flash. A lot of people were covering this, of course. You know, the thing is, this happened all of a sudden. From what I understand, Toriyama was still at 68, was still considered in pretty good health. He was still working on stuff for Dragon Ball. He still had stuff coming out. Now it'll be the
Yeah.
people that were working for him who will probably more or less finish the book out, in some way or form. But anyways, quote: "We are deeply saddened to inform you that manga
Yeah.
creator
I
Akira."
guess I more meant just.
What was that?
I guess I more meant that. No, but yeah, people, all the fans knew he would die one day. They just probably weren't expecting it so soon.
Right. Yeah. So manga creator Akira Toriyama passed away on March 1st due to acute subdural hematoma. Um, unquote. Read a news update co-authored between the Dragon Quest co-creators' own Bird Studio and the newly founded entity in charge of Dragon Ball IP, Capsule Corporation Tokyo. Now, yeah, even though Dragon Ball is probably his most famous work, he's had a number of other works that have crossed, Doctor Slump. he seemed to like to write a lot of Dragon because he had Dragon Ball, he had Dragon Quest, and he had Blue Dragon. Those are three of his properties right there. you know, so
A
and then this is
dragon
I guess
trifecta.
yeah. So here's I guess the post or note everybody the news release here. We can we'll read it here. Dear friends and partners, we are deeply saddened to inform you that manga creator Akira Toriyama passed away on March 1st due to acute subdural hematoma. He was in age of 68. Um, it's our deep regret that he still had several works in the middle of creation with great enthusiasm. Yeah, so this is one of the things I had heard. Also, he would have many more things to achieve. However, he has left many manga titles and works of art into this world. Thanks to the support of so many people around the world, he has been able to continue his creative activities for over 45 years. So he started this when he was like 23, basically. Um, we
Yeah,
hope we hope that Akira Toriyama's unique world of creation continues to be loved by everyone for a long time to come. We inform you this sad news with gratefulness for your kindness during his lifetime. Funeral services was held with his family and very few relatives following his wishes for tranquility. We respectfully inform you that we would not accept flowers, condolence gifts, visiting offerings, and others. Also, we ask you to refrain from conducting interviews with his family. Basically, the idea is, I think his family just wants to be left alone to grieve. That's understandable. Um,
yeah,
future plan for commemorative or commemorate gathering is not decided. We will let you know when it's confirmed. We deeply thank you for your understanding and support as always. March 8th, 2024, Bird Studio, Capsule Corporation. So, yeah, so, and this is just repeated what we just read there, I believe.
yeah,
And you see some of the manga work there of the Dragon Ball franchise right there.
yeah,
Let's see. In light of its passing having occurred several days prior to its public announcement, the studios informed fans that his funeral services had already been held, quote, with his family and very relative, I guess, very few, unquote. To this end, Bird Studio and Capsule Corp Tokyo further clarified to the public, quote, following his wishes for tranquility, respectfully inform you that, okay, so we read that part. However, in acknowledgement of just how much the Dr. Slump mangaka's work meant to the world, the message concluded with an assurance that while a quote future plan for commemorate gathering is not decided, we will let you know when it's confirmed. So they know that people want to people want to at least get together to honor him and stuff like that, but they also want to give the family their.
yeah. Technically, people could do it in and of themselves from wherever they are too, but
Yeah.
now probably in
And I know
Japan.
there's a lot of people. Like I know that Vera Dark, she acknowledged that one of the things she was gonna do was she was gonna do like I guess she was gonna binge watch a bunch of his work, anime works, which of course, as we said, included Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, and Blue Dragon. Doctor Slump was another one of those. So, born in Nagoya, Aichi, Japan, in 1955. Toriyama's interest in manga was first sparked, according to the mangaka himself, by Osamu Tezuka's seminal Astro Boy. Again, another well-known, famous,
Yeah, I watched that as a kid, Astro Boy.
Yeah. Well, there've actually been a few animes after there was one. The first one came out in 1963, and then another one came out in like 1980, and then another one came out in 2003. So
I
there's been
probably watched in 1981.
hmm, yeah. And though he would spend much of his childhood doodling away, his high school years would see his artistic ambitions take a back seat to his burgeoning social life. When the time finally came to graduate, rather than go to college, Toriyama chose to enter the workforce. Finding work as a poster designer for an advertising agency, the future manga superstar would eventually choose to leave his position after finding that ultimately the corporate life was not the life for him. However, a man cannot live on hopes and dreams alone, and Toriyama soon found himself in desperate need of cash in order to keep supporting himself.
Jeez, I know that.
Mhm. I'm sure many comic book creators, whether it's Japanese mangakas or Western comic creators, know that. I'm sure to a certain point, even people like Chris and Tim know that as well. So,
Yeah,
and Ethan and all them. So let's see. After a chance reading of Kodansha's weekly shonen magazine at a coffee shop, he decided to solve his money woes by entering into the magazine's then currently ongoing open submission contest. Unfortunately, he did not complete his submission in time to meet Kodansha's deadline. But when one door closes, another opens. He soon thereafter discovered that Weekly Shonen magazine's competitor, Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump, um, held their own such contest every month. So the first submission to his eventual home magazine would be rejected for being a parody of Star Wars rather than an original work. After receiving encouragement to continue practicing from the editor who reviewed his work, none other than Kazuhiko Torishima, who would eventually serve as editor on both Dr. Slump and the Kid Goku years of Dragon Ball. Kid Goku, basically the first Dragon Ball series, not Z, not GT, none of that. Let me just do something here real quick. Let's try to get that viewer count up a bit by really showing them, hey, people are watching this. Anyways,
yeah.
getting back to this, let's see. Um, Toriyama eventually produced Wonder Island, which, after being deemed acceptable by Shueisha, would go on to become his first officially published manga. Makes his debut with Wonder Island, which 1978. So 78, which of course, again, would have made him 23. Um, Though both Wonderland and its sequel, Wonderland 2, were complete misses with Shonen Jump's readership, the mangaka refused to abandon his creative dreams, instead committing himself to finding commercial success. As a result of his tenacity, 1980 would see Toriyama produce the work that would launch him into manga stardom, Dr. Slump. Though Toriyama only intended for Dr. Slump to run for a maximum of 6 months, thanks to his runaway success, Weekly Shonen Jump editorial would not allow him to bring it to an end until he delivered them a different series to take its place. Thus, the adventures of the series' purple-haired android antagonist, Arale, um, ultimately ended up going on for a total of 4 years and 236 chapters. And of course, Arale, I do know, did make, I think, a couple of appearances in the Dragon Ball anime as well. I don't know if Doctor Slump actually became an anime or not, but I know that Arale, that little android girl, and there she is right there, would make an appearance in the Dragon Ball anime.
Thus connecting the two worlds.
Huh?
Thus connecting the two worlds.
Right. I think they're part of the same world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would Toriyama eventually deliver in 1984 to allow him to bring Dr. Slump to a close? Well, thanks to a suggestion from the aforementioned Torishima, that he combined his loves for both manga and kung fu movies, Toriyama brought Shueisha a Journey of the West parody that, unbeknownst to them at the time, would someday become one of the most venerated and most profitable series, Dragon Ball. And there's Goku right there in the pages of Shueisha.
Yeah.
Notably, though, he had his hands full with the burgeoning adventures of Son Goku. The mid 1980s still saw Toriyama found the time he lends his services again at the nudging of Torishima to then upcoming RPG title known as Dragon Quest. Now, of course, the Dragon Ball anime, of course, came out in 1986, and then 3 years later, Dragon Ball Z came out, 1989.
Yeah, and Dragon Quest is actually a video game. I thought so.
Well, it's a video game, but it also they also did make it into a manga and anime as well, I believe. And while the breakout success of the series' first entry would see Toriyama serve as the franchise's overall art director, from then on out, it would also allow see him and his fellow Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii reach such acclaim that they would eventually be tapped to work with Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi on what remains to this day perhaps one of the most widely lauded video games of all time, Chrono Trigger. Now, Dragon Quest, yes, I do, because I actually watched, got around to watching that last year, Dragon Quest. Granted, the English dub, they only went up to 13 episodes. The Japanese series did last quite a bit, but they only dubbed 13 episodes because it didn't catch on over here in the States. So, of course, all things must come to an end. In parentheses, after all, that's the entire reason for this article's authoring, isn't it? And after 11 years of making readers wish they could shoot energy from their hands, Toriyama eventually brought Dragon Ball to a close in 1985. His final page, seeing Goku in the reincarnated form of Majin Buu, fly off into the sunset towards some unknown horizon. But then came Dragon Ball Evolution. Produced by 20th Century Fox in 2009, Toriyama found the live action adaptation to be so absolutely terrible that, out of fear that the film would serve as a defining image of his creation in the minds of millions, he powered up once more to produce the animated Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Resurrection F cinematic outings. Those were anime movies. And rather than return to retirement, Toriyama would instead team up with mangaka Toyotaro to produce the official sequel to Dragon Ball Super, which ostensibly had been working, which ostensibly he had been working on until his death. A little editorial issue there. Here at the end, what's there left to say? Thank you for everything, Toriyama. Rest in peace. Thank you and goodbye. You see that panel of all the Dragon Ball characters right there.
Yeah.
All right,
Is
so
that
there we
the
go.
end?
Yeah. So so basically that he was still working on Dragon Ball Super too. I mean, now granted, he had Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z Kai, all that came out. Dragon Ball GT, but that one was not looked at as with a lot of praise as it were. But So with that, any thoughts on what we just read there, Rick? Before we
Well, unfortunately, I haven't read much of Dragon Ball or watched much of Dragon Ball. Well, I've read less than I've watched. Which I think what I've read is none. But I've seen a few episodes. Sad to see somebody die, obviously, ultimately. Unfortunately, as we know, it's a part of life. But it sounds like he had a pretty good career. I hope mine is as good.
And before we move on, there were a couple articles I wanted to go over from Bleeding Full as well. So we'll go over to that in a moment here. But I want to do a brief moment of silence for the late great Akira Toriyama, man who brought us Doctor Slump, Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Blue Dragon, among other things. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick moment of silence for the late great Akira Toriyama.
Can't.
All right. All right. I was just about to come back up, Rick. Don't worry. All right. So, anyways, as I said, there were a couple of articles that also caught my attention the other day on Bleeding Full that were pretty interesting. I think we probably go over. We're just at the net right now, just at the 46, 47-minute mark. So
49, yeah. 10-2, basically. I'll be back in a minute or two. I'm just going to go grab a little something to drink.
All right. I'm setting this up. Actually, I may need to go off camera here in a moment too, because I need to just do something here. So. All right, so I'm gonna put some music while Rick and I are gone. I'm gonna put some music on for you guys. We'll both be back in a moment here. We're back, albeit I did it in a little reverse order. I should have probably brought myself back first before turning off the music there. But yeah, there are a couple articles, as I said here, that kind of caught my attention here. We'll wait till Rick gets back to where we start with this one. La 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 la. And as always, guys, if you haven't already, of course, if you guys can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. And we will we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability. So here. And Rick, you're back, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, here's the first of a couple articles that kind of caught my attention the last couple of days here. R.I.P. American Comics: The Death by a Thousand Cuts. Article by Brian Niemeyer, published back on March 6th, which is last Wednesday. All right. So, according to my previous post on the death of American Comics, elicited its fair share of comments. One reader who decided to offer his 2 cents ended up contributing gold when he turned out to be an industry veteran. Consider a commercial sculptor William Paquette's insider account of the U.S. comics industry's collapse. There's a heads up. This isn't the last time we'll hear a first-hand account of Vertigo shenanigans. The foregoing was only one slice of the comic's Death of a Thousand Cuts. So I guess this is a tweet from Larry Dickman here. I worked for DC throughout the 90s and saw the writing on the wall. It's been 30 years of destroying great characters one cut at a time. Vertigo took Swamp Thing and made him an effeminate do-gooder. So, to follow up, I asked William if anyone else on the inside realized what was happening. And according to him, he responded here, some did internally, the old line DC guys. Most of the DC projects I worked on were still solid. But Vertigo was another world, and it was taking over the ship. The editor-in-chief at Vertigo was awful. Now back to the article here. And Vertigo rears its head again. At that point, I flash back to my misspent years of reading Sandman, and something about the lead editor's name struck a chord. Of course, this was the 90s Vertigo Sandman, not to be confused with the Sandman that we've been reading in the Golden Age.
Yeah. And definitely not to be confused with Marvel's Sandman.
Yeah. Spidey's
villain of Spider-Man.
Named Karen, if memory serves. Never was one name so aptly. Nepotism, diversity, higher. A paradox. How does one demand to speak to the manager when one is the manager? On the subject of impossible statements, and here's another tweet exchange here. Brian Niemeyer. People forget that the rot goes back to the 90s. And William Paquette is Larry Dickman here. I sculpted a statue of Hellblazer, brought it in for final approval. Karen looks at it, looks at me with this odd expression, and says she doesn't like the face. I ask why. She says he was patterned after Sting. Okay, I don't know which Sting they're talking about. If it was Sting the wrestler or Sting the singer. So I say no one told me that. She says, "Well, we can't really say that."
Uh,
Behold, old. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
That's just stupid. He's patterned after somebody, but you can't tell them that.
I guess not.
Oh, but we got Mahuba. I'm not sure in the chat.
Behold.
CD.
Oh,
Yes, how we are feeling. How are you feeling today? All right, yourself?
oh yeah. This guy's been on for. Hey, how you doing there, Mahomak? Um, Yeah. Well, we're doing fine, Mahoma. We're just going over some articles, just kind of reviewing some stuff going on past weeks and stuff. I'm glad to see you're here. If you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, then we can get some more people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment down or ask questions, and we will try to answer the questions to the best of our ability. So, back to the article then. Um, Behold old pub legalism in all its glory. So basically, they're worried about because if it was modeled after Sting, now again, I don't know which Sting they're talking about. If it's Sting the wrestler or Sting the singer. But speaking of that other collapsing industry, um, OG readers um, will remember way back in the day when Rockstar Vertigo writer Neil Gaiman disavowed Sad Puppies after they helped Sandman Overture with a Hugo. Anyway, jaded as I am, Karen's critique of Williams' Hellblazer sculpture made me do a double take. So here's Mr. Paquette again, in his tweet. Haha, that was basically my response. Anyway, told my AD, I guess art director, about the meeting. He rolled his eyes too and said, "Don't worry about it. No changes were made." Same art director, FTW.
Was it win?
Yeah. Um, which highlights another destructive trend in American comics and Old Pub have in common. So here's Brian Niemeyer asking, it's the same in F and SF novel publishing?
Fiction and
Fiction,
science fiction?
I would guess. And William Paquette says, can't complain too much since I was hired by a woman, oh boy, who eventually got fired, replaced by another woman, and then they hired a very cool guy who became my art director for the duration that I worked with them. He was good. By now, it's a familiar story. Artistic failures beget business failures that soften up an industry for death cult infiltration. Competent men interested in the business purpose are phased out in favor of women mainly interested in themselves. That's the death of 1,000 cuts. If you see it happening in your field, it might be time to start planning your exit. Thankfully, New Pub has arisen to fill the void and serve the forgotten male reader. And that service doesn't get any more personalized than in neo patronage, um, where you decide what kinds of entertainment you want made. So there we go. So there we go with that one.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, get ready to move on to another article here. Another one that kind of caught my attention. And then we can probably go through and see what other ones might grab our attention there in a moment here. And of course, Ethan is starting his latest trash can episode right now.
Mm.
Not that I really care. I mean, you know, you can only take so much. You know, just dump it on people.
Yeah, for sure.
So, is Japanese manga easier to jump into than American comics? Article by Avi Green published on the 7th, which is this past Thursday. So let's take a look at this now. The vidette of Illinois State University had a writer telling us that manga from Japan is easier to get into for readers than USA comics, of which on which note is from the article he's referencing. A lot of our favorite superheroes, such as Batman and Spider Man, have been around for so long that there are many different versions of them in different universes created by different writers. Unless you magically happen to keep up with every new continuity like myself, you're going to be very confused about where to start reading. Well, just do what I did. Just go back to the very beginning and work your way forward. Right, Rick?
Yeah, yeah. But now I'm not sure how many mangas are like this, but there are also a lot of mangas that go back years. As maybe not quite as many as say Superman, Batman, or Spider Man. Maybe not long. I don't know, but I doubt it. But so they can be pretty hard to get. Some mangas can be pretty hard to get into too. Just like some superhero stuff can too. Like Superman or Batman, because yeah, they go back to the 40s, but you know they reboot stuff every so often. So it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe there might be multiples, but I think and I'm not sure what it'd be like for manga, but I'm sure you can just pick up and start reading. Yeah, maybe you don't know a lot of history, but you can find out various ways,
Well,
getting back to issues.
three of the most successful mangas of all time are all in Shueisha's Weekly Shonen Jump, which of course are Dragon Ball, um, One Piece, in Bleach, and I think Jujutsu Kaisen is becoming a pretty popular one as well. So pretty well
Yeah,
known one as well. So
yeah,
anyway,
but
oh,
those are so popular. Like you said, they've been going for years, right? So
mhm, yeah. Well, the One Piece manga, from what I understand, started back in 1996. The anime, of course, started back in 1999. So, and the
yeah,
manga
so
itself, I think, started back in 94 or 96, sometime around there. So,
that's over 20 years, and maybe you don't have multiple universes, but it is still could possibly potentially be hard to jump onto.
mhm.
Anyways,
Comics are also plagued with the issue of having to read multiple runs or events to have a hint of understanding of what is currently happening. Um,
sometimes not.
in addition, it does not help that collecting comics is very expensive. Prices can add up quickly. Most trade paperbacks can collect about 5 to 6 issues, or $20 at the bare minimum. And then going back to Avi here, um, certainly prices for paperbacks, hardcovers can be very dismaying too, can't they? But where were these people when everything was going downhill at the turn of the century and even earlier? Or why don't they argue the time's come for DC Marvel to stop publishing for now, if that's what it takes to put an end to the woke monstrosity they've become? And how come the college writer never thought to encourage anybody to start at the golden age beginnings, like I, right, Rick? Like I
Yeah.
myself, you know. Are they really so old-fashioned? No modern university student can get into them. I don't think so. I think if anything, they're quite quaint. I think
Yeah,
I think
there might be a little um, off-putting. I'm not sure how you want to say it, but you know, depending on how big of a comic fan you are, yeah, go back there. And again, I don't think you necessarily need to go back to the golden age. Yeah, so you don't know the history of everything. Like there's ways to find that out, especially nowadays if you want to, unless you need to know it in every single detail, you
well,
know.
they have a bunch of wiki sites that you could wiki fandom sites that you can probably just get the basic information. You know,
Yeah,
you can kind of get the structures of like I like the idea of reading the actual comics to kind of like get more like to go back there. It's one thing to
yeah,
get a good idea of the timeline and the chronology and all that. It's another to really get into and feel like you're there. You know, you're there in that time
yeah.
period and you're there in that world. So, anyways, getting back to the article here. Um, yeah. So let's see. Oh yeah. All right. So, such laziness, but far from surprising, a college paper could be so cheap. And then back to the article here. Japanese manga, on the other hand, does not suffer from this problem whatsoever. Almost every manga you can think of is only a singular story from beginning to end, which is true. I mean, you have arcs and but you don't have as many reboots either. I don't think
Yeah,
manga readers.
but that again, that makes it harder to get into if it's a long time running one because, again, then you have to go back to the beginning, right? To get it all.
Oh,
Where the reboots,
yeah,
yeah, just start at the reboot. Who cares? What happened before the reboot?
yeah. Manga readers are not often forced to read multiple series or events to understand the full picture. They can just start from chapter one and get the full experience.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, sure. They don't have a shared universe. That's about it. They don't have a shared universe with anything else, like DC
yeah.
and Marvel stuff usually does.
While a lot of mangakas do keep their stories self-contained, there can still be an art. This is obvious speaking again. There can still be an argument. Some have gone on for far too long, like Detective Conan and One Piece. Now, I know, as we just mentioned, I think the anime started in '99. The manga I think started back somewhere between '94 and '96. Detective Conan, the anime started back in '96. I don't remember. Yeah, and I don't know how far the Detective Conan. For those of you who don't know, Detective Conan. Um, we know it here in the states as Case Closed. It was on Toonami and Adult Swim for a little while there. Funimation did the dubbing of it, but ended after 130 because it just didn't pick up as strongly as the other stuff did. But Detective Conan is the actual name of what most of us here in the States would know as Case Closed.
Uh,
So, which so far have been keeping on even in anime series for over a quarter of a century. Last time I looked, so depending how you view this issue, some could wonder if they'll run the risk of running out of ideas and thus become interminable. So yeah. So anyways, that said, another letdown in this college paper piece is how it won't get deeper into how mainstream USA comics destroy themselves all for the sake of universe spanning crossovers, and nobody seems to step forward and argue this has to stop. Um, what good does it do to complain about the ruinous effects of crossovers if you can't make a point, um, they have to be abandoned as a storytelling gimmick, and audiences have to boycott them if that's what it takes to make clear they want no more of this.
Yeah, because if it makes them money, the companies are going to do it. The crossovers, and the crossovers are meant to try and get you to read other characters.
Yeah. And this is exactly why, if the writers at the university paper thought they were saying something, they've only come up woefully short, as could be wholly expected from such otherwise woke sources. It's kind of funny. Avi's normally pretty good at like giving out detailed articles, but this one, it was kind of a short. For him, was kind of a shorty. So
Yeah.
we're at an hour and 11 minutes. So let's see what else we might be able to find here. Actually, before I do that, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. So, Rick, if you want to talk to the chat for a moment while I'm gone, I'll be right
Yeah, I
back.
can try to do that. So is anybody else still here besides me? Let's do, 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 do. Ma, are you still here? Ma, Mahmood, Mahmood CD. What's your mood? I hope it's a good mood. So what shall we say? What shall we say? I don't know what to say because I have not known what to say. I don't know. What should I talk about? Nobody's talking here. I'm not talking here. You're not talking here. Nobody's talking here. No. Didn't, 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 didn't.
All right, I'm back.
Okie
All right.
dokie,
So,
Smokey.
what was that?
I said, okie dokie, Smokey.
Let me just try one more little thing here. See if we can draw in some more people who might be interested. Let me see who might be on here.
Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do,
All
do,
right.
do.
So now with that, let me now do one more thing here, and then we will let's see what else might come up here. Here's thoughts on superhero fatigue, comic related cure. Got a brand new power fantasy. Tried giving away. Oh, now that sounds funny. Marvel tries giving away inclusion and diversity focused digital comics. That sounds funny. That sounds kind of like an interesting article. Let's see what they have to say here.
Yeah, I probably have an idea, but
Oh, we probably do, but this is probably one of those cases as Tug as that umbrella guy Tug would put it. Probably one of those cases where we can laugh at the stupid here. You
yeah,
know, probably one of
let's
these cases
hopefully
where
we just laugh, not get frustrated.
so let's see what happens. So let's see. Marvel tries giving away inclusion and diversity focused digital comics. Article by Todd Fisher, published March 10th, which of course is today. Marvel Unlimited, Infinity Comics. Let's see. All right, so let's see what's all going on here. Now, comic readers have even more access to the Marvel Universe with the all new Marvel's Infinity Comics Start Scrolling digital program. The new program, exclusively from Marvel Unlimited, allows readers to access select Infinity comics for free. Marvel's Infinity Comics Start Scrolling provides instant access to select free comics with no login required. Readers can experience over 100 issues of bingeable Marvel stories starring fan favorites including the X-Men, Spider-Man, and many more, including their unpopular identity politics driven and diversity first comics by visiting marvel.com/Infinity Comics.
Well, if it's including more than just their unpopular identity, politics-driven stuff, no, that's all right. If some people want to read the crap stuff, that's all right. I'll read the good stuff, maybe.
Readers can expect free Infinity Comics to be rotated in throughout the year.
Let's see, what do we
I guess
have
here are
here?
some of the
X-Men, Spider-Verse Unlimited. That might be good. Hi, it's Jeff. Well, I don't think that'd be good for me.
Love
Love,
Unlimited, Marvel
that's
Voices. Okay, now I in case you didn't know, Rick, Marvel Voices is their diversity specific line of comics in which it's kind of an anthology series where they actually focus on quote unquote diversity figures. You know, people like Kamala Khan, for example.
okay. Avengers Unlimited. Maybe it might be good. I don't know.
Yeah, so quote, Marvel's Unlimited Infinity Comics were not only introduced to provide a new way to experience Marvel stories, but also to create additional avenues for fresh and underexplored corners of the Marvel Universe, unquote, said Jessica Malloy, VP of Marketing, Marvel Unlimited. Quote, the Start Scrolling program is truly an extension of that. Um,
Although I must say they've had something similar they've had this for a long time. or maybe they just bringing it back. I remember around the time Ultimate Spider-Man came out,
Mm-hmm.
they had a bunch of comics on their site then that you could read for free. So this isn't really a new thing.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure.
I think the thing is that you notice what the headline said though was they tried giving away their their
Yeah,
diverse.
yeah,
I think the point he may be trying to ultimately make here is that you can't, these diversity and inclusion comics, these DEI comics are just so bad, so unpopular, they can't even give them away. I think that's
yeah, yeah,
the point.
yeah. I get that. The thing is, nobody's reading them, even though they're free. But my thing is just, I'm not sure whether the article's trying to say this or not. That and they're probably not. That they're putting these comics up on their website to read for free. Yeah, sure, they're saying nobody's reading them. But is it saying that it's just these bad ones they're putting up there? I'm not sure. My
I
point
guess
was
we just
just,
have to read more of the article to find out what point you guys trying to fully
yeah.
make.
My point is they have put comics on their site before to read for free as well. So
Hmm.
it's not the first time, you know, that they're doing it.
Hmm. All right, so let's see. And with titles being rotated in regularly, we hope to keep welcoming in readers to our ever expanding comic universe. Unquote. Let's see. Marvel's Infinity Comics are a vertical format designed for phones and tablets, exclusive to Marvel Unlimited. Since launching in September 2021, Marvel Unlimited has published over 1,000 Infinity comics to date from over 300 top Marvel creators. And this article didn't go all that long. This was a pretty shorty as well.
Yeah. So in over 1,000 comics in 2 years or
Mm-hmm.
2.5 years. Well, 2.5 years. It could easily be there could be easily be some really good ones in there. Yeah, there's definitely some horrible ones in there. Free is free. They like I said, they've done it before. Like back when Ultimate Spider-Man came out and Ultimate X-Men. They were having them up on the website. So it's not like they haven't done it before, put comics on to read for free
Mm-hmm.
on their website and
Mm-hmm.
not having to log in or anything. It's yeah, they're trying. They didn't say whether they didn't show any statistics whether people are reading or not going to these. So
Mm-hmm.
the article is a bit misleading. The title, anyways.
Yeah.
Because maybe people are reading, maybe aren't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, with that, why don't we? Okay, so what we're gonna do now? We're gonna go back over to Bounty in the Comments because that was basically the last article here. See
Hey,
what
Elk.
the elk at Antioch is here, huh? Got in
Yeah.
a little late there, elk. Hail Xenu and Xena. We just went through a whole bunch of articles on comics. Well, the first article we did on was on the passing, of course, of Dragon Ball creator, the passing of Dragon Ball creator Kira Toriyama. That's the first article we did, but then we just talked a little bit about the demise of comics and some other stuff. So now let's take a look at. Oh, okay. Let's see. Damn. All right. So let's see now. So there was that.
We just read an article that was titled about Marvel trying to give away free digital comics on their website. And I was just, the article wasn't too bad, although I did point out that they've done it before, so it's not nothing new for them giving away comics.
Here's another Toriyama linked article here. Sandland, the series, to feature new in smaller parentheses the Angel Heroes arc sequel story written by Akira Toriyama. Article by Nerdigans Inc. published March 8th. So let's take a look at this one. This one's, I guess, has a connection to the late great Akira Toriyama, who we just talked about a little bit here. With its 24-year anniversary swiftly approaching, the upcoming Sandland, the series, has confirmed that in addition to recounting the full events of Akira Toriyama's obscure manga, it will also tell a direct sequel story conceived by the late series creator himself. Making up the first 6 episodes of the series, the Demon Prince arc will serve as a retelling of Beelzebub, who's voiced in the Japanese by, I guess in the anime, in the Japanese by Mutsumi Tamura, who did the voice of Stigma and Shy. Rao, who is voiced in the Japanese by Kazuhiro Yamaji, who voiced Yamaji in Ninja Kamui, and Thieves, who voices Cho in Ono and Under Ninja. Original manga adventure as portrayed in last summer's Sandland movie. As revealed on March 4th via the series' official website, Sandland the series will consist of 13 episodes divided into 2 chapters, The Demon Prince and The Angel Hero, both named by Toriyama himself. Now, most animes are usually done either as 26 or 13 episodes. So usually what I would call quote unquote a full season being 24 to 26 episodes, or half season of like 12 to 13 episodes. So just so you guys know. Notably, the anime version of events will feature the addition of both previously unrelated footage as well as completely new scenes. So there's Sheriff Rao right there, and Beelzebub. Beelzebub, I believe, is the guy, the pink guy right there. That's Beelzebub. And Thief, in Sandland, the series 2023. So. Following this retelling, the Angel Heroes arc will tell a brand new sequel story, translated via Deep Bell, set in the country of Forestland, quote unquote, wherein, quote, Beelzebub and his friends will encounter new characters, including Mechanic Ann, voiced in the Japanese by Mikako Komatsu, who provided the voice of Senku Ishigami in Dr. Stone, and the Heavenly Angel, Muniel, voiced in the Japanese by Ayumu Mirase, who provided the voice of Shoyo Hinata in Haikyuu. Haikyuu is a volleyball anime, a pretty good one too. If you guys might want to check out. There's Moongill right there. Alongside this news, the late Toriyama also released both a new illustration featuring Anne and Muniel, as well as a short message reflecting on the history behind Sandman the series Green Lightning. See if we got any more comments before we continue on here.
No, nothing new for comment.
You just reverb there for a sec there, Rick.
No, I don't know why. I've got my headphones on and all that, so.
It was real brief, so I don't think it's something to worry about too much. But anyways, quote, the Sandlands project started with a game and then progressed to an animation, unquote. Recalled the mangaka. Quote, so much like Dragon Quest, another one of his works. Quote, when I was first shown the character designs, I thought it was a game. As the project progressed, I thought, quote, what? I began to wonder if it was an animation. As the project progressed further, I began to think, what? It was both? I remember being surprised. Wow, you're surprised. I'll continue on here. Quote, to counter Dragon Ball, which was a bit flashy, all of my short stories were about a small world and loose heroes, um, which is what I prefer. He then acknowledged, quote, I have drawn only simple and peaceful stories with a small world and loose heroes, which is my preference. Sandland is basically like that, but I guess they thought it would be too tough to make it in it an action piece. Animation staff added various flashy tricks to add a sense of gravitas to the production. Unquote. From there, Toriyama delved into the aforementioned new characters and Muriel, Muriel. In particular, um, his thought process behind their designs and their role in the Angel Zero's arc. Angel Zero arc. All right. Quote, the synopsis we received consisted of several um, dramatic elements and dynamic developments from the very beginning. I proposed the setting and design of a new character, Angel Munio, um, as well as the design of Anne um, and other characters and episodes. And the sequel was completed, unquote, said the series creator. So this must have been one of the last projects he was working on before his untimely passing.
Yeah,
Quote, the dramatic
sounds
development,
like it.
yeah, uh, quote, the dramatic development, which would not have been possible for me, a simple minded person, was a fresh surprise, unquote. Signing off what would eventually be his last production comment ever, Toriyama concluded, quote, I am sure you will enjoy the new world view and powerful action. Beelzebub, Rao, and Thief meet new great adventures and new characters. Um, enjoy the exciting story of the terrifying energy in small brackets aquarium. It would really be great if you could take your time and feel the piece. Unquote. The first 7 episodes of Sandland the series are currently on track to hit the road on March 20th via Hulu in the US and Disney Plus for international viewers. The Angel Heroes arc will then follow on March 27th, with the remaining episodes releasing on weekly schedule every Wednesday. So there we go. All right. Let's see, where are we at time wise here? Let's see.
34.
And let's at least take a quick peek and see if maybe there is at least one more article we can probably get to. If not, then and we'll probably start to wrap up. Maybe let's see. Looking, that's what going. Oh, that one looks that one basically looks like another one we've been. Oh, Final Fantasy Tactics director response to Western local. Okay, this is more of a video game one, but since it does cover localization, which we talk a lot about as well, this is of course another issue we've been talking a lot about. It's covered across anime, the localization stuff. So, Final Fantasy Tactics director responds to Western localization discourse surrounding, in smaller quote, Unicorn Overlord. Quote, it is unacceptable for someone to alter a work without considering the original author's intent, unquote. Article by Ryan Pearson, published March 9th, 2021. Now, mind you, normally I don't cover a whole lot of video game stuff, but because of the fact, of course, we're talking about localization here, which we do talk quite a bit about. That's why we're covering here. Actually, I do need to go away from the computer for a moment here because things are starting to get a bit dim in here, so I do need to put on some lighting here. But while I'm gone, Rick, if you want to talk to everybody for a moment, take care of the lighting and stuff like that, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I can do that. Hey, Elk. Yeah, um, yeah, I tried to find some animation stuff for uh the video stuff of AI, but I couldn't find anything. Well, I found sites, but I found some sites, but I couldn't get them to use my pictures and all that. The whatever character I tried to do it with. So other than that, and I know the Google one is Gemini, and I don't have that on my computer with Microsoft Edge or anything. So I don't know what to say.
And I'm back, and I did see that, of course, there's the. Oh, God, this localization stuff is very repetitive. Well, I mean, it's getting talked, again, it's getting talked about a lot because, you know, we're just,
Yeah. Oh,
it's
I think
it is kind of a big deal, it's like,
yeah. Well, obviously, I think he sort of. I could be wrong, and he'll correct me. Probably knows it, but there's lots of articles with it, and you can't help what articles are coming out. Obviously, you just choose which ones to read for, you know, the sake of whatever. Sometimes it's length or whatever. So I don't
there
know,
might
but
be software out there. Google is different than Microsoft. The Microsoft is still available. Google withdrew theirs. Well, yeah, well, okay,
yeah.
because one of the reasons why these stories are going on right now,
Well,
Elk.
he's just referring to with that his statement, referring to what I was saying before you
Okay,
came back.
okay, okay. Well,
The re-
the thing that got all this started was a couple months ago when Bushiroad announced that they were going to do a simulpub of Ancient Magus Bride. That's what got all this started in the first place. This recent rash of talk about the localization stuff. So, anyways, after Unicorn Overlord's English translation came under fire for being more, in smaller quotes, flowery, and its original Japanese release, Final Fantasy Tactics director Yatsumi Matsuno stepped in to offer a stern but sympathetic take on the abysmal and disrespectful state of the Western localization industry. So one of the aspects here too is now it is getting back to the creators, getting back to Japan that, hey, look, these people in the West are doing this stuff to their work. Now they're responding to what's going on. That's so.
yeah. The other thing is you have various articles going over it every day. Some people are very much into following every little detail of it, and some
Mhm.
aren't.
On February 21st, Vanillaware um, launched a demo for their then upcoming and now released tactical JRPG, Japanese role playing game, Unicorn Overlord. Upon release, thanks the rising awareness among consumers regarding the West's blatant and continual mistreatment of Japanese works, the demo found itself subjected to intense scrutiny for possible localization changes by various players. Among these players was Twitter user at Zekodo, or at the Cogdo, who, after comparing the Japanese and English demos of the game, took to the social media platform to inform the public, quote, after playing the English demo, in parentheses there, or in brackets, I can say quite confidently that the localization is abhorrent, unquote. Providing quote a thread of numerous examples unquote to support his point at the Kodo the Cogdo first noted how the difficulty names were changed, seemingly to avoid offense to anyone who wished to play the easier modes. These were changed from casual, tactical, and expert to story, normal, hard. In parentheses, notably early previews of the game had used sweet instead of story. Early previews had story as sweet. Quote, they made it less difficult to JP, unquote, theorized at the Cogdo, quote, but it seems in smaller quotes here, casual is still a dirty word these days.
Hmm.
And I don't know why casual would be would be a dirty word, but
Me neither.
let's see. Continuing at the Cogdo, then highlighted over 30 scenes where in the game's dialogue had been edited from in smaller quotes normal speech to some kind of faux Shakespearean prose. Quote, this reeks of localizers who think themselves better writers than the original Japanese authors, unquote, opined at the Cogdo. Quote, this is the source of many of the Loke's problems, unquote. Yeah, their sheer arrogance and their sheer arrogance and condemnation of the original work. For example, instead of quote, we completely fell for it, unquote, the English version sees the character Lex state, quote, guy laid out the bait and we had to take a nibble, unquote. In another case, Reynolds' line about, quote, decided to quiet down at last, unquote, has been changed to, quote, so the fool has finally ceased braying, unquote. There were also cases where, in addition to being made more, in smaller quotes, theatrical, some lines of dialogue saw their intents change completely. A scene where Elaine insists he's fine and asks a knight to aid his mother has been changed English to instead have him chastise the knight for, quote, just standing there, unquote, and essentially, smaller quote, shame him into. Okay, into it. Some editorial issues here going on, obviously. Rolf is turned into a pessimist. Clyde seems to mistake Adele wanting to recapture his kingdom as quote unquote making merry. Elaine seems to mock or tease a friend's swampland home he's been tasked with liberating, and more. Zakagdo also notes that, quote, Chloe's dialogue is rewritten to add in regular sarcastic comments and jabs at other characters when they were present in when they weren't present in the Japanese version. She is somewhat rude in Japanese, but the English script has played it up far more and makes her kind of obnoxious. At one point, Priestess Scarlet admits to being scared after an ambush, but in English states she's, quote, only shaken, that's all, unquote. Other female characters are also shown to have any shock or lack of confidence stripped away in English. The knight, in other words, they're trying to, it sounds like they're trying to masculinize the women a little bit more in the English localization. That would make them
Um,
stronger than
Elk
the.
says it's Elk says it's ironic. A website that bitches about poor translation has utterly poor writing in one language. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you've been on, you watched me cover it enough. We actually, in fact, here's one of the funny things too. Here's one of the now that I just think about this too. So at one point, Bounding in the Comics was owned by somebody by the name of John F. Trent. He was basically the owner of the site. You know, he eventually sold it off, of course, but and he's of course got another site up now that that darn that dark place, I guess, is what his new site is called. But he sold off this place, and Grant, even when he was running it, they did have some of those editorial mistakes, right? But it seems
Yeah.
like since John Trent left, they've gotten worse. I'm picking up more typos, more missing words now since John Trent's gone than were there. I mean, they were there even when he was there, but I mean, they've seemed to gotten worse.
Yeah. The thing is, you would think a site like this would have editors.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody to go over the article just to make sure all this grammatical stuff is thing. Because
Well, isn't
it
that
is,
what an editor is supposed to do?
yeah, well, one of the things, yes. One of the things possibly, yeah. But it's just because to me it looks bad on the site that they
Mm-hmm.
have all these.
Mm-hmm.
Uh it doesn't make some people will make them make them being taken less serious. But I think unfortunately even the other sites that are, you know, not even that are woke or whatever you want to say, I think they have the same problems too. I could be wrong.
Well, but this site is not really a woke site. If anything,
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's
granted
why I said,
granted it's toned down because what ended up happening is that John Trent, I guess, sold off this site because basically, the people who are coming in starting to take over did not want. I mean, while they were kind of right leaning, they weren't like so over the top. They didn't want to just be like getting into wars with the left over it. They just, if anything, this side, the people
yeah,
now own Founding in the Comics
yeah.
want to be
Well,
more neutral. They want to be more
yeah,
neutral.
yeah. I get that. But my point was, I knew these guys were more right leaning, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. I was trying to make the point that even the left leaning sites
Mm-hmm.
have this. in the comic sphere that we're going over, and that's crazy. That these sites need editors, somebody to, I get that maybe you're not the best person. So hire somebody to go over these articles and correct these small little mistakes before you publish them. Because
Right.
like I said, it's unprofessional.
Mhm.
At least for a site like this, it's bad enough when somebody like me is, doing my comics and I have that sort of stuff. But
Yeah. So the knight Beaumont doesn't seem particularly posh or mannerly in Japanese, yet in English seems to not only more okay.
verbose
I know, but again, and we were just talking about it too.
seems
For an
to
editor,
only
yet in
be
English seems to not only more verbose.
more verbose.
That's where I was going with that, Rick.
Yeah,
In parentheses, like the rest of the cast, but puns about birds and chickens. In other words, that's where I was going with it, Rick. Is that they're missing a word.
yeah.
Quote.
Alex says Alex says the editing is terrible, but I think comic book blogs aren't profitable to attract professionals. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe not professional quote unquote writers, but have one writer, editor, maybe two on staff that are good with
Mhm.
that stuff. I'm not sure whether they would get paid, but you send them your articles, they go through them, and correct all these little mistakes before they get published.
Mhm.
Or proofreader, maybe a proofreader. Then it should be a
Right.
proofreader, not a editor.
Mhm. Anyways, we're coming up on 2 hours here, so I got to get through this here. Um,
Yeah,
quote: Beaumont is one of the more extreme examples of fancification, having had his personality rewritten to constantly make absurd exclamations and allusions to avians. Zacocdo lamented, quote, if I were an Atlas localizer, I'd call this a cock up, okay? Unquote. Uh, yeah. Continuing at Zacocdo asserted, quote, it's infuriating seeing this level of disregard for the characters they're supposed to be translating. The localizer thinks they're making some harmless joke when what they're actually doing is damaging the integrity of the character because they refuse to stop meddling. Unquote. Concluding their diatribe with a small caveat, quote, now to be clear, I'm in brackets here translating things literally to demonstrate the differences more clearly, and I don't posit that such TLs translators would be suitable or translations would be suitable for a full look. Work work where character voice needs to be more clearly conveyed. Unquote. But my translations being boring doesn't make them wrong, and fanciful dialogue does not necessitate rewrites that result in changing characterization at the same time, unquote, they ultimately concluded. As discussion soon exploded around Zakato's discovery, it proceeded to be joined by aforementioned Matsuno. Though he had no involvement in the development of Unicorn Overlord, the esteemed creator of such tactical RPGs as Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics felt compelled to offer his own thoughts on the overall localization discourse. So, reading this reminded me of the original version of, in brackets there, Final Fantasy Tactics PlayStation 1, recalled Matsuno. Quote, it wasn't that the translation went out of control, but simply that the level of the English translations was low. For example, the proper noun, quote, Hokuton Knights, literally, in brackets, literally translated Northern Sky Heaven Knights, unbracketed, was translated as Order of the Northern Sky. Quote, at the time, even within the development team, there were doubts as to whether this was the correct translation, unquote. He continued, quote, however, the schedule was given the highest priority and the game was carried out as it was. Therefore, when overseas players praised the scenario in FFT, Final Fantasy Tactics, as being good, I thought, in parentheses, and still do, really, unquote. Quote, Vagrant Story, on the contrary, received high praise abroad due to the high level of English translation, unquote. Matsuno added, quote, Alex at Alcagia, who was in charge of English translation, he was also in charge of Final Fantasy XII and Tactics Ogre remake after Vagrant, and his English translations were highly appreciated. In parentheses, from Final Fantasy XII onwards, at Joseph Reeder also participated. Unquote. Unsurprisingly, Matsuno's opinion would spark a wave of discussion all its own, much to it revolving around the fact that while the creator may have been trying to give localizers the benefit of the doubt, his response seemed to ignore the Western industry's proudly bragged about disregard for the original author's creative vision. To this end, the game developer eventually returned to the conversation to offer his thoughts on this specific issue. Quote, this is my personal opinion, but may I share it with you, unquote, said Matsuno. Quote, I believe that it is unacceptable for someone to alter a work without considering the original author's intent. However, when the market or language is different, a direct translation may not convey the intended meaning accurately. Which is true, and we talked about this a little bit before too. So,
Yeah.
this is especially true for humor. Therefore, I think some degree of attention is
Alteration.
alteration is unavoidable. Yeah,
Yeah. And we've talked about that too before.
yeah. Quote: this issue lies in whether the original author has consented to these alterations. Has anyone confirmed whether the author of in smaller quotes, Unicorn Overlord, has approved its English translation, unquote. He then proposed, quote, in any case, I think both arguments have merit. Translating faithfully to the original and allowing some degree of adaptation, I encourage discussion on this matter, as I do not intend to take sides. However, if the original author approves, I believe that should be respected. That's all. Unquote. And I think
So
that's a
basically,
general thought that
can have.
everybody would agree with.
Yeah, appreciate.
Yeah. Even then, some implored Matsuno to understand that Western gamers have had to endure in regards to botched localizations. Okay, another slight editorial, maybe a different way. But anyways, quote: most of the times, original creators don't even know the target language of the translation, and they agree, believing that people responsible for the translation are doing the job right, which is the opposite in most cases. Unquote, wrote at Linkasobi. In turn, Matsuno stated that he was, quote, aware that this is the case and that it is very unfortunate, then reiterated his contempt for deviating from the original work, though he did note that, quote, some degree of adaptation is unavoidable, unquote.
Is that it, or is there any more there?
There's a little more here. An apparent translator themselves at Mad Sanchez, at Mad Sanchez 09 implored, translated by Depot, quote, Mr. Matsuno, neutrality is fine, but the person you are quoting is quite undermining localization. It is seen as both positive and negative, unquote. Offering his final thoughts on the matter in response to at Mad Sanchez 09's concern, Matsuno admitted, quote, the source of the quote may have been misleading. That might have been a mistake, unquote. However, rather than continuing to focus on the conversation on himself, the developer then turned the question to the audience, asking, quote, anyway, I'm interested in what players think is best. While I believe that significant alterations that ignore the original work's intent are nonsensical, where is the line for fidelity, unquote. Offering two arguments for players to side with. The first being that, quote, translations should be faithful to the original work no matter what, unquote. And the second being that, quote, that freedom in translation is acceptable, unquote. Matsuno ultimately concluded, quote, is there no middle ground between A and B? I'm curious to see where your discussions will lead. Thank you, unquote. So I like his response there because
Yeah,
sparking the conversation. He's not necessarily trying to take side. He's just sitting there, trying to just
find out what everybody else thinks.
right.
He's
Because
already stated his opinion, basically, but
right.
it's at the same time, hey, this is what I think. You may think different, and that's fine.
Yeah. Unicorn Overlord is now available to charge into battle on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series XS. All right, so there we go. There we
Yes.
go. We're now just past the 2 hour mark, so we are gonna wrap up here pretty quick. We just have one more segment, which is of course this weekend in Niche history. So we'll do that, and then we will wind down here. So, anyways, okay. All right, 1934, March 9th, 1934. March 9th, 2000. All right, so first off, heading back to yesterday, going back 90 years ago yesterday. Oh, so today, and again, today being,
Or yesterday being.
oh, okay, today be well, yeah. So today is March 10th, Sunday, March 10th. We're looking back to this weekend. So yesterday, yesterday in each history, March 9th. Let's take a look there. Oh, wait a minute.
Any comments on EBS going full drama casting? Well, what's new? Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
EBS.
mean,
I haven't
yeah, I
really
mean, I
watched
like
when this stuff.
yeah. Okay, I'll let Rick finish, then I'll go. Sorry,
Yeah,
Rick.
well, I was just saying I don't know what it is. He's probably still going on about Eric, and I haven't been watching him for the last couple of weeks. You know, I saw probably one of the first two trash cast, but I haven't really watched it since then.
Yeah,
I knew I found out all I needed to know about what was going
right.
on, and it's just more of the same. So
Yeah, and basically same thing with me. I watched, I kind of watched the first few, first two to maybe up to a week's worth, and then just kind of, just like, the whole situation just kind of stupid, quite honestly, drama farming, drama casting, whatever you want to call it. The whole bleeding thing is stupid. Okay, the whole bleeding thing is stupid.
I would have, Elk saying he started going full drama channel starting Friday. I would have said he'd been more full drama channel for a lot longer than that, for a couple of years now, personally. But the odd time he might talk about something different, or bring some comics into it. But he invited a Jewish anti-pedo video uh, democracy and invited Ethan Emerald to ambush him. Okay.
All right. Again, that kind. Okay, so he invited a Jewish anti pedophile video documentary. Then invited Ethan Ralph to him. Documentary video. You mean video documentary director? um,
Not quite. Yeah, not quite sure what you mean there, but
yeah. I mean, well, first again, that what does that really have to do with anything?
well, it's just what him going full drama cast, as he said. But
Let's see.
this had nothing to do with comics. It was just full drama guy on other drama guy. Fight it out. Oh, okay.
Well, again, and we do see, unfortunately, I would say, unfortunately for our society as a whole, we are seeing, in my own opinion, we're seeing way too much of this. This whole feeding this whole looky-loo culture.
Oh,
Everybody's got to sit there and just slow down. Now, granted, yeah, you slow down to get by the traffic, but you don't sit there and stare and gawk and just revel in the misery of others. I mean, it's like that's what we see. That's what we see this. We do see this a lot. Ethan's doing it with Eric. We kind of see Tug doing it too with Amber Heard. Where it just seems like.
I was going to say, was one of these guys the guy that was defending the Soska sisters? Because I know Chris on Hero Shack, he played a clip of something from Ethan's, I think, yesterday, and we got talking about it. So.
Well, yeah. The Solstice sisters, who Eric July hired on to do work for him, and I guess what they claimed was in their past. They had, they were, they were basically Satan worshippers and all the like, and I do remember hearing about that. But anyway,
AVS went from Comicsgate to just full anti-pedo conspiracy theory drama. Oh, yes. Yes, the documentary guy was pro. See, there's where he made it about comics because of them.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So. All right. So with that though,
yeah, you're trying to do this weekend in Nietzsche history.
So let's take a look
for yesterday.
Back at this weekend in Nietzsche history. History. So first off, we're going to head back 90 years ago yesterday. As on yesterday's date, 90 years ago, the following animated shorts premiered in movie theaters. From Charles Mintz Productions through Columbia Pictures, On Nurse and Cinderella. And then from Terry Toons, which would of course later give us from Terry Toons Production, which would later give us Mighty Mouse and Heckle and Jekyll, The Owl and the Pussycat. So On Nurse and Cinderella through Columbia Pictures, from Charles Mintz Productions, and Alan the Pussycat from Terry Tunes were all released on yesterday's date, 90 years ago. So, and of course, On Nurse was it was a scrappy feature, and Cinderella was a crazy cat feature, just so y'all know. So now moving on to next piece of niche history from yesterday. On yesterday's date, back in 2004, was the SmackDown taping for the March 11th episode of basically the go home SmackDown before WrestleMania, I believe. And on the show, the main event saw Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty defeat the Basham Brothers. In a 2-on-1 handicap match, Big Show defeated Arch Kincaid and John Walters. In a non-title match, Eddie Guerrero defeated Shelton Benjamin. In an 8-man tag team match, Billy Kidman, Funaki, Rey Mysterio, and Ultimo Dragon defeated Akio, Jamie Noble, Sakota, and Tajiri, which were born out of a previous match. And then the night opened up with John Cena defeating Rhino. So 20 years ago yesterday, WWE held its Go Home Raw before WrestleMania. Actually, let me also see something there from the from Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now moving on to today in niche history, of course. Let me just remind myself when we're 1944 and 2014. All right, so first off, heading back 80 years ago yesterday, or 80 years ago today. 80 years ago today. The first issue of Standard's Wonder Comics, so of course not to be confused with the earlier Wonder Comics that eventually became Wonder World Comics from Fox Features Syndicate. This was the first issue of Standard's Wonder, which went on sale on this date back in 1944. It sold for 10 cents and 48 pages. So 80 years ago today, the first issue of Wonder Comics from Standard Comics, also known as Better Books and Nador and all that.
And, in a couple of years on your channel, we'll be reading it.
More than likely, yeah. The rate we're going, right? Went on sale on this date 80 years ago today. Well, if they have it, of course. If I can find it. So
Yeah.
always. And finally, on this date 10 years ago today, the OVA episode from the first season of Fate, Khalid, Liner, Prisma, Ilya was released on this date 10 years ago today. So the OVA episode of the first season of Fate, Khalid, Liner, Prisma, Ilya was released on this date from Silverlink on this date 10 years ago today. All right, so with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Hope you guys, and as always, if you guys can always help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get more people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Good night. Good night, Elk. With that, I thank everybody for being here, and we will see. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow with Neats News. Also, this Friday, I have Tim Olson joining me, and we'll be continuing our look at February 1940 comics. This time, looking at comics that went on sale from Marvel Comics. So, with that, I thank you all for being here, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.